Hey y'all, we're starting season 4 of the Andy Griffith Show this week with the episode titled Opie the Birdman. Barney?
I teach Opie how to make a slingshot in the courthouse. And then I say to him, Alt, what you got here is one of the oldest weapons known to man. It's famous too. It was one like this that David used to knock out that bully Goliath. Generally speaking, there are two main requirements in becoming adept at using a slingshot. One is keen, sharp eyes, and two is a good, strong set of tension fingers.
And then you show Opie how good you are with it, even though Andy says, Barney, don't use it in the office, and you break the glass of a bookcase. So Andy uses that as a lesson to Opie to use it only outdoors, and even then to be careful.
And then Opie leaves with his new slingshot, trying it out as he walks home, that he accidentally kills a bird with it in his front yard. And he's real upset about it. And then I drive Andy home, and on his way walking in the house, Andy finds the dead bird. And at the supper table, Opie is real quiet, and Andy tells Aunt Dee to tell the neighbor to watch her cat, 'cause the cat killed one of their songbirds. And Aunt Dee says that neighbor is out of town, and that she took the cat with her. And at that point, Opie runs away from the table and up to his room. And Andy goes up there and tells him he wants the slingshot.
He says, you killed that bird, didn't you? Even though I told you to be careful. But instead of punishing Opie, Andy just opens the window and he says, you listen to those birds chirping for their mother who's never coming back.
And the next morning, Opie tells his pa that he's putting together a breakfast of dogs and worms for the 3 birds that are left in the tree. And he's got names for them, too. And then later, Andy and I are watching Opie feed the birds as he's up in the tree. And I say, oh, I almost forgot. Here, use these tweezers to feed them instead of your fingers. And the next morning, Opie is hurrying to finish his breakfast so he can go outside and feed the birds. And I come over and I sit down at the table. And the neighbor is back in town, and we hear her cat meow. So we all run over the house to save the birds. And we take it out of the tree and put it in a cage on the porch. And Opie wants to take the cage inside, but I say, no, a wild bird is a creature of the outdoors. He needs fresh air and sunshine. It is scientifically and biologically wrong to take a wild creature indoors. And so we all go in the house and we leave the birds alone on the porch for a while. And Andy says, Opie, when they're big enough, they're going to have to be let go. And I say, that's right. Wild creatures need their freedom. They'll be fine, Opie. You can tell by their chirping. That's them communicating in bird talk. And I give Opie some examples of bird chirps and what they mean. And a few days later, I pick up Andy for work, and we say how big the birds are getting and how they need to be let loose. And Opie comes downstairs, and I go to the kitchen to get some coffee, and Andy takes Opie out to the porch and says, Opie, it's time. And Opie doesn't want to at first, but then he realizes his paw is right. So he lets the birds go, one at a time, and they each fly away just fine. And Opie says, I did a good job, didn't I, Pa? And his pa says, you sure did.
And Opie says, the cage sure looks empty, doesn't it, Pa? But then his daddy says, yeah, but don't the trees look nice and full?
And then I get Opie some goldfish as his next pets.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week for episode 2 of season 4.